All right, yes. This is very exciting for me and for anyone out there who loves boxing, one of the greatest trainers to ever do it. Of course, he's the trainer of Manny Pacquiao and many more great champions. Freddie, Roach. How are you, Freddie?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
First of all, it's a pleasure to see you again.
Thank you.
I'm going to tell you a personal story that you won't remember, but maybe if I jog your memory, you will. Do you remember when you trained Tyson for Danny Williams?
Of course.
And you trained him in Phoenix?
Yes, the gym in Phoenix, very nice gym in Phoenix.
Very nice gym.
Yeah.
And so at the time, I was I was in between jobs, and I was desperately trying to make a documentary about Tyson. So I found out that you'd be at the gym you'd be at, and I showed up there. I met you in the morning, and you said, hey, if Mike's okay with you sticking around, you can stick around. And you allowed me and my friend to hang out for the day, and we ended up getting to have lunch with you and kind of spend the day and watch you guys train. Now, fast forward all these years later, I'm working on a podcast with Mike Tyson. He's become a dear friend.
Oh, great.
And that was sort of the beginning of it all. So thank you. You were so kind when I met you.
Tyson's a good guy. I like Mike. He's a funny guy. Were you there during his birthday party at all?
No, I was not.
Well, that was a fun night, too.
Oh, in the middle of training? Oh, in June, because it's June. Yeah. I asked you back then, I said, who was the hardest punch you ever caught on the mitts? And I'm pretty sure I didn't make this up, that you said Klitschko was the hardest punches you'd ever caught. Does that sound familiar?
Klitschko was the hardest puncher. I mean, he's so much bigger than like Tyson, and he's punching. I got my arms really high because he's like 6'6", and he punches very hard, and he's a very intense puncher and just body weight and so forth. But then but Mike was more explosive and much faster. So the two, like Mike was more devastating because he was so quick, and Klitschko, as you could see coming a little bit more, he was a little bit slower, but a little bit heavier also because he was a much bigger person than Mike. He outweighed Mike by about 25 pounds.
Did the Williams fight frustrate you? Remember, because Mike almost got him out of there. He actually looked really good to start before he tore his.
He tore his meniscus in a couple places and so forth. But at that time, Mike. He wasn't the same as he once was. He was, if he didn't knock you out within 4 rounds, the fight was like almost over. He would almost just retire or quit, and so forth. He just didn't love the sport anymore, and he just was. It was kind of disappointing though, because the first fight I had with him when he knocked out Clifford Edgyon was all good because it was
38
such a quick.
seconds.
It was a great quick knockout. But the thing is, Mike just wasn't training for the duration of longevity fights and 12-round wars and stuff like that anymore. I wish I had trained him when he was younger, of course, but it was a great experience.
Now, when you look at the division now and you look at Klitschko, who you have a relationship with, first of all, what did you make of the Klitschko Fury fight? It looked like Vlad couldn't let go of his punches. What did you take from that?
He got old overnight, and that happens all the time. I mean, that's part of boxing. You'll never really see it in the gym so much, but in the fight, he just didn't have it anymore, and you've got to look for those things and so forth. And I would advise him to retire, but now they're fighting a rematch, I hear.
So why do you say that? You think it's something where he literally got old overnight? You don't think it was a night where he was just off and scared to kind of let loose?
Not after the career he's had and the number of fights he's had. No,
it's just too many.
Just too many, yeah, just too many. And the thing is, like right now, like if Manny Pacquiao had that kind of night. With Bradley, I would do the same. I mean, the thing is, my job is the health of the fighter and to take care of the fighter and make sure they don't get hurt and keep him healthy and so forth. And Manny Pacquiao's work ethic, and he's still 100% there in the gym right now. He looks great. But the thing is, if it does happen to fight, because he is getting older, it's going to happen. It's going to happen soon. I mean, it's going to happen someday. It does happen to all of us. I remember it very, very well when it happened to me. And it's just.
How old were you when you found yourself getting old?
24.
And why so young for you? Were you sick?
I had a lot of pro fights already. I fought 54 pro fights and 150 amateur fights. So I've been doing boxing for a long, long time. But old man Roach makes comeback at 24. That's what it said.
That's what it said.
I retired at 27. So it took me a couple years to catch on, but it finally came to me. I remember when my trainer Eddie Fudge asked me to retire, and I said, "No, why don't you retire? Because you're older than me."
How do you feel physically right now?
I'm great. I have Parkinson's, but it doesn't really affect me that much anymore. The new medications are really good.
So it's really
The
the medication is really making progress.
The tremors aren't there anymore. I don't shake hardly at all anymore unless I'm in a bad situation or like a stressful situation, which I don't get into too often. So the tremors are hardly there anymore. And just like about a year ago, I just stopped shaking. I says, I don't know why. We did make a little bit of a change. Instead of taking one of each medication at different times, we combined the two together that I take every day of my life, and it worked out well. I mean, I got the neurologist, very guy. I got a Harvard grad who's a very, very intelligent neurologist, and they're doing great things. I'm feeling really good. My back's been hurting me a little bit, but that's a whole different issue. But the thing is, that's getting better too. So the thing is, I turned 56 last month, and I'm feel great, and I'm not close to retiring yet.
We lost the other. One of the other true greats of your generation of trainers in Manny Steward.
Yes.
How much do you think boxing misses having his voice and brain?
They miss it a lot. I mean, he was an old school trainer, and my trainer Eddie Fudge trained him, and Eddie was a great guy also. And it's really funny because this fight comes down to like the me or Teddy Atlas and so forth, but it's taking it one step further. Teddy Atlas was trained by Customata, and I was trained by Eddie Fudge, and I think it comes down to who is a better fighter or who is a better trainer there. And because
Isn't it crazy? All these years later, that's still the matchup.
That's still the matchup. I mean, and they've both passed away by now, and hopefully they will watch now for us, though.
All right. Well, speaking of times that could stress you out, I can't have you here and not ask. Obviously, this is what's happened with Manny publicly in the U.S. is very, very interesting. It must be challenging for you. You live in Los Angeles, and I mean, listen. Obviously, I don't agree with or approve of what Manny's beliefs were on that issue. But talk about what your conversations have been with him on it, and how you've sort of handled it with your own life living in Los Angeles.
Well, the thing is, he explained it to me that, the 1 minute that they do play doesn't really sound too good. But there was an 8-minute speech there comparing the Old Testament and the New Testament, and he was trying to explain the difference in the Bibles, of the two Bibles. But anyway, one thing about Manny Pacquiao, he's not prejudiced against anyone in the world. I've been to his household before. He has about 200 people who work for him. About half of them are gay. And I know them all, and they're all good people. They're all nice people. Manny, they work for Manny, and Manny doesn't discriminate against anyone in the world. And then the rebels, who are supposed to be the bad people that are going to kidnap me and have threatened to kidnap me before 15 years ago when I first went there. And Manny's kids, they threatened to kidnap also. So Manny hired 35 of the rebels to be his bodyguards. So now they work for Manny Pacquiao, so now there's no trouble. And he's really a good person and really has not prejudiced against anybody.
Did you ever have a conversation with him in which you say, hey, Manny, listen, I understand your religious beliefs, but you just can't say these things. It just doesn't play the right way. It's hurtful.
But in his country, about 90% of the people believe he's correct. I mean, because that's where the votes come from, and it's a very, very strong Catholic people that 90% Catholic and so forth, even though he's a born-again Christian now and changed religion, and his mother doesn't like that, but she's a Catholic also. But the thing is, I think it was really, I think a lot of that was lost in the content of the story. And if you listen to the whole 8 minutes, it kind of explains itself at the end and comes out that but
do you expect?
But that 1 minute, it was very bad.
Right. There's no way around that.
But
part.
We've had no protests yet, and we've had no one really go against us, and it's quieted down quite a bit. I mean, in the Philippines, it was never discussed about in the gym or ever, and I just asked Manny about it just on the plane ride here because I thought we might have to answer some issues about that and so forth. But again, it's politically he is running for office and so forth, and I think that it's a voting thing. But in America, I know that it doesn't go that way and so forth, and a lot of people like Nike, they don't sponsor him anymore and so forth, and But
Do you expect to see a change on Saturday night? Like, do you think that you will see a bigger split between Filipinos and Americans as opposed to everyone rooting for Manny like it used to be?
I don't think so, because I think that everyone knows he's really a good person, and there was nothing really meant there hostile. I mean, it really wasn't meant that the way he came out, and at least the way he explains it to me. And he says, he doesn't think that it's over. But like in the Old Testament, it does say that, though. And the thing is, I think he was just saying what the Old Testament says, and then he was comparing the New Testament in the Old Testament and even in his speech. But the thing is, Manny Pacquiao is one of the nicest persons I've ever met. He's a great person. He's a really good guy. I think he might be the best person individually on earth that I've ever met. He's the kindest, most warm-hearted person. He's generous. He just loves to help his people.
You think there's a disconnect between the words that he's saying in terms of what the Bible says and how he actually feels about people individually?
There's definitely a disconnect, definitely there, because he's not prejudiced against anyone in the world, or any race, or any color, he's just not that way. He's just not that type of person. And, I've seen it myself. I mean, he's a very, very good person.
All right, well, Freddie, listen, no matter who you're training, love seeing you, love that you're a part of this game. You make boxing better, and it's wonderful. Good luck on Saturday night.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, Freddie Roach.